We don't aim to solve all the world's problems, but we do offer you peace of mind, hope, laughter, and ideas on how you can help improve circumstances and communities. Good change is for you. For us, we take to heart your concerns about anger, injustice, and helplessness, the pain that we each feel, and give you something better to witness, something better to believe in. In many ways, this podcast is the opposite of self-help. It's us help. We draw attention to kindness, to the better angels of our nature. We swap stories that bring smiles, deep breaths, inspiration, and ideas to help us evolve. We introduce you to people who are positively transforming lives, leaders of movements, or everyday heroes who are making change. Good change. Good change highlights the common ground we share, the unlimited positive impact of a single person, and the greater good. Welcome to Good Change, a podcast about making a world of difference. Please welcome your host and good change maker, Ken Streeter.
Hi, everybody. It's Ken Streeter with the Good Change podcast, and today's guest is a dear friend of mine and a mentor. It's William McGinnis, who is the author of Whitewater Rafting, which is the Bible of the activity, the Bible of the industry. He also founded and ran Whitewater Voyages, which was a leading cutting-edge wilderness and day trip rafting company based in California. He's most recently shifted to writing adventure and spy, and what's the right word, Bill? What's the type of book that you're writing?
Well, I call them the Adam Weldon thriller series, but they fit into the thriller, mystery, suspense category.
Right on, and they're great books, and we'll talk a little bit about how somebody who is a leader in the wilderness and whitewater trip industry became a thriller author. Welcome to the show, Bill.
Thank you so much, Ken. Great to be here.
So my experience with Bill goes back many years, decades, when I was a youngster or younger than I am now. I had the good fortune of working for Whitewater Voyages, Bill's company. I eventually made it up to the general manager status. And so for a few years, Bill and I worked side by side, and I was able to learn about running rafting companies and wilderness adventure trips. And more importantly, I was able to learn about what it takes to be a good leader. And Bill's work in that industry and elsewhere has blessed us with folks who have also been able to work under his wing. And today there are literally dozens and dozens of people who are leading nonprofit organizations or businesses that are focused on sustainability or school districts. And I just wanted to take this minute right now, Bill, to say thank you for being a mentor to so many people and for being willing to teach younger people good ways to do things.
Well, I'm honored and flattered and amazed at all that, at that wonderful intro and acknowledgement. It was an amazing kind of journey. The universe is full of so many wonderful souls. The universe just sent incredible people, such as yourself, into my sphere. And my goal along the way was to, survive as a business, but also to create the kind of experiences that I wanted to, that enhanced my experience, that enhanced my life. And you guys, you and so many just amazing people. It was just an incredible adventure and privilege to do that.
I think the word voyage, think about the company name Whitewater Voyages. And, there's a lot of companies out there, Whitewater Excitement, Rapid River Runners, River Adventures. but I think of the word voyages as really apropos for what you created as the founder and owner of that company. Has it been truly a voyage for you that you maybe never even foresaw the potential of the impact that it would have?
Um, Absolutely. I didn't, there's an old set of guidelines that, oh, you need to have set goals in order to achieve something. I didn't find that to be the case for me. I just tried to make the most of each day. And you do need to plan ahead, and put a lot of effort into creating the kind of future you want to be in. But it wasn't so much having these goals, it just kind of unfolded. And, people showed up and the universe responded, and you keep trying to provide something that will enhance the universe, but enhance my life, one's own life. And it just kind of, it's as though the universe was teaching me. I really feel that I was uncovering archetypal levels of knowledge, levels of awareness, kind of shapes out there in the intangible universe, that I was discovering them. And the world just evolved, and all of this was an amazing adventure that just kind of unfolded around me, and I had a lot to do with it, but I don't really take credit for it. It just, it's just an amazing thing to be alive, really.
So you talked about setting goals and not necessarily having long-term goals, but planning ahead. And one of the things that you did differently, and I have to think that this was an intention, maybe a goal, was to have the outfitting industry in its infancy take a slightly different direction with how clients were regarded and treated. You fostered a far more participatory and almost holistic approach to guiding. And tell us why. Why was that important to you?
Thanks for that question. As I alluded a moment ago, being on a river trip, being, doing things I was trying to create the kind of trip, the kind of experience that I wanted to be in, and a river trip is a wonderful kind of microcosm because it's its own world. You're with these people continuously for however long the trip endures, and the kind of space that I wanted to be in was one that was nurturing to me. And the very best way to be in a nurturing space is to nurture the people around you. And so I wanted to be in a place where it was okay for me to not be perfect, for me to be myself, for me to have the feelings I had, and also one where I could really kind of open up with at least some of the people, and let my hair down and, be myself. And, there's a phrase that I have often, woven into our guide schools and my writing and so on, which is, if you can say how you feel to at least one other person, it can free you to feel something new. And I'll say that again. If you can say how you feel to at least one other person, it can free you to feel something new. And so in that is embedded a deep kind of truth. We are like rivers. We have this inner flow. If we're blocked and dammed up, we become diseased. We become unhealthy. We're unhappy, whether it's physically or just or just a level of stress or something. It can vary, but the more we can keep that inner flow going of expressing our feelings, getting them out there, and then having new feelings and moving, progressing, evolving, basically we can cope with anything if we can keep doing that. And if we can be in settings with people that where we can talk honestly and truly openly, and be received in a way that is accepting, as opposed to being judged or put down or, competed with or whatever, and so it's that kind of atmosphere that that I found was nurturing for myself, and it was just the universe was just blaring loud and clear, hey, this is the kind of atmosphere I want to be in. And I was in a very privileged position, because as a trip leader, as as an outfitter, I could try to influence that, and also I could select people who were open to that message, and that was kind of a core guideline for me, was to uh, sense whether people would be open to that message, and pull those people into my sphere. And you, for instance, and others just were very open and resonated with that, and so it got to be a kind of a wonderful, amazing experience of just being able to create the kind of adventure that, in the kind of atmosphere that uplifted me. And it turned out that other people just totally responded to that. And it was really at the heart of why Whitewater Voyages was what it was, is that people came, and often they would say, oh, I just love rivers, or I love whitewater rafting, or I love Whitewater Voyages. But what they really were responding to was this atmosphere where they felt okay, where they moved from, not a river trip isn't just a matter of moving from put in to take out down a river. It's a matter of moving from being afraid to being more confident to more joyous, moving from feeling cut off from the people around you, kind of a stranger in a group, to feeling more bonded with those people, really at one with those people, and really appreciating those people, and feeling their appreciation of you. And another aspect of it is maybe feeling, moving from feeling somewhat scattered or self-critical to feeling more self-accepting, more whole. And when that happens, you feel more alive, more energized, more present, literally more absolutely whole and vital, and appreciative of what an amazing thing it is to be alive. And on that note, you also move from feeling somewhat oblivious or cut off from nature to feeling aware of how amazing this natural, beautiful world we're in. And of course, a river canyon is just, so magical and so beautiful. And so it just, when you're there, even if you're not feeling good, it's a beautiful place. But if you are feeling this level of nurturing, both nurturing the people around you, but feeling their nurturing and feeling the acceptance and so on, and avoiding things like put downs and machismo and stuff like that, and just focus on accepting people, valuing people, taking an interest in people, and having them do the same with you. It's just quite an amazing experience to do. And so I was just trying to create fun. That's, I kind of call that deep fun, and so I was trying to kind of create deep fun for myself and for those around me. And so that was the kind of the essence of what made Whitewater Voyages what it was.
And that this is all happening in the 70s and 80s, late 70s, mid 70s,
Yeah.
early 80s. And there was no such thing like that in leadership in any industry at that point. It was regimented, top down, dictatorial is probably too strong of a word, but there weren't work cultures that embraced that philosophy. And when you look at it today, and you look at how Google is run and Facebook is run, and the environments, the ecosystems that they are providing for employees, you led the way, and you probably had no idea that could trickle out. But based on, as we said earlier, the number of people that have taken leadership roles throughout the world in different agencies or companies or institutions, you helped plant the seed for this far more pleasurable and holistic and collegial and supportive work culture. That's cool.
Well, thank you, Ken. I have, to be honest, I have reflected on that, and it's a truly amazing thing. I don't take full credit for that. It's just amazing people came to Whitewater Voyages and participated. But when I look at all the amazing things that so many of our alumni or our family members are out there doing, it's truly awe-inspiring. You know, what is happening, and you know, I can't really take credit, but somehow I am deeply honored and thrilled that what I endeavored to create has reverberated out like a pebble in a pond has rippled out, you know, into the universe. So
that's a perfect metaphor. That's exactly what happened and is happening still to this day. And it literally, for companies wanting to attract the best employees today, what they pitch to those potential employees is the exact environment that you've described, that you created on river trips throughout the West. And Whitewater Voyages quickly became a leader in the industry in terms of guides wanting to work there, and the number of clients that you took down the river, and just the kind of the promotion of the industry in general through those efforts. And I think it's a reflection of the fact that people were starved for that. And then, as we're experiencing today, it's proof in work cultures that are created around that. So hats off to you for making a huge impact in not only in the outfitting industry, but throughout the world.
Well, I take credit only for all the good stuff.
So this is only an hour show. We're not going to be able to get into the bad stuff. Okay. We're just going to focus on the good stuff. So what in the world led you to starting a rafting company? You know, we talked about, you wrote the kind of the Bible of the industry and the activity, whitewater rafting. So give us a little history there. What happened?
Well, I had no idea that I would become a professional commercial river guide, you know, outfitter. I did train with one of the first outfitters in California, and the training took about half an hour. And part of what I learned in that, what I was taught, was incorrect, you know. But as time went on, I just learned more and more. And to write my book, I had been rafting by then, just privately, as well as the training I did as a guide. But I just started rafting on my own and so on. And for 11 years, I had been running rivers, and I just thought, hey, in some ways, my deepest, most lifelong ambition has been to write. And I wanted to write a book. And so I just thought, well, I'll write a book about whitewater rafting. And when I was finishing that book, I was writing an appendix of rafting companies. And I thought to myself, you know, if I ever want to start a rafting company, I had been sort of semi-professional in that I had been running ads in papers, and I went out to Sproul Plaza one time, put a raft against a tree and said, "River trips, inquire here," and stuff. And like from that one day on Sproul Plaza, I rafted for an entire summer with the various people who I had met that day. And anyway, I wanted to. It just occurred to me that if I was ever going to explore the option of being a professional river guide, that I darn well ought to put myself on that list. And so I did. And so basically that, you know, that first book published by the New York Times and in all the libraries and all over the places, it was in its own modest, a small pond way, it was a big deal. And it just launched Whitewater Voyages. And so I was out there, I didn't have time to turn around for years and years. I was just, swamped.
Yeah, right on. So in addition to writing that book, the Bible, you then decided to share what you knew as an outfitter and what you'd learned with the younger generation of guides, the first or second generation of guides at Whitewater Voyages. And you wrote a couple of more books that helped shape the industry as well. Tell us a little bit about the Guide's Guide. And
Well, what I, because I had this unique goal for our trips, I would, and in the very beginning, I mean, there was one season early on where all of our former guides and so on were all busy or couldn't make it or whatever, and I had to run some trips with all brand new guides, and so as we drove from our staging point to the river, I had to kind of bring these guys in alignment with the kind of trip I wanted to create. And so I made a bunch of notes and would give this kind of talk. And it was basically, the essence of what became the Guide's Guide. And so as time went on, especially when different things happened, like one time we were camped on the Rio Grande River, Texas-Mexico border, and a rainstorm came in the middle of the night, and I got up and went around and tried to help people put up their tents and all that sort of thing. But I found out the next morning that two of our guides, who were really great people, they had simply they knew where the tarps were. They just went and got tarps and covered up and just went to sleep. They didn't help anybody, And instead of getting mad at them, I just wrote a journal entry, and that went into the Guide's Guide. And there's still an entry there that says, when things happen, take care of the clients. Don't just take care of yourself. Your job is to be there for those people. You're a professional. And but I did it in such a way that wasn't belittling or saying, "Hey, you idiot, don't do such and such." I said, a really smart guide this is how they behave, and this is what they do. And so I was, because nobody wants to read a long book that lectures them, says, "Don't be an idiot,"
Yeah.
Anyway,
it wouldn't have turned into a bestseller if every page would just said, "Don't be an idiot." 150 pages, that kind of like writing it on the chalkboard when you got in trouble when you're in elementary school.
Yeah, so true. And I'm reminded of the manual of a very good rafting company, but they had their staff manual had a big page of saying, "Do these things and you get fired."
Wow.
And there's a long list, 50 things that you do these things and you get fired. And so I took a little more positive approach, and of course the positive brings out the positive, and it was much better, much wiser. But it was often not by some deep like I was writing some wave of deep wisdom. I was just winging it and figuring out how to do it, and and it just occurred to me, well, why don't I put it in the positive? And I did. Yeah.
So that's a remarkable statement of, this is the Good Change podcast, and the idea that we have the potential for making change individually and communally. A cornerstone philosophy to that, I think, has to be that the positive brings out the positive. In order to elevate personally and elevate societally, that's the direction, that's the energy. And so that was the underpinning, or the the woven philosophy of this book was the positive brings out the positive, and you wrote it in that style. And then just more and more information kept needing to get added, and the industry changed a little bit, and you wrote the next book.
Yeah, well, the original Guide's Guide, it was just basically time to, I wrote it for our guides as a staff manual, but I just thought this is something that's valuable for every outfitter, but also everybody, you know, like my mom, who is, you know, not biased at all, said, "Hey, Bill, this is a wonderful book about how to be a good person."
Yeah.
You know, and I said, "Well, thank you, Mom. That's exactly what I was hoping it would be." And yeah,
So you wrote the Guide's Guide Augmented, which
right.
just added a whole bunch more information about how to be a good river guide and how to be a good person.
Yeah, and I embellished in that one. I became a little more explicit about my philosophy of appreciating people, and you know, certain little mantras like asking yourself, especially if you notice that your mind is wandering, you know, a human trait, you know, is that our minds wander, and it's a beautiful thing in a way, but it also means that you often aren't focused on where you are.
Did you, I'm sorry, I wasn't following you. Did you just say something about it's a human trait to have the mind wander?
Well, you'll probably see in the course of this interview that I definitely do that, and so that's just part of life. But yeah, we our attention, it's just human to do that, and it's part of. It's really it's not a problem. It's just a part of being human. And if you define yourself as, oh, I have to absolutely stay focused 100% of the time, I just don't know how you would function even through a day, you know, without being stressed out. No, it's a matter of just accepting that, and then every time you notice that your awareness has wandered, invite it back gently. And like, for instance, in the Guide's Guide Augmented, I had a little section that where I mentioned that when you notice that you're not being present with the people you're with, you know, and when you run a river over and over and over, it's a challenge to be present with each group. But it's kind of like a primary part of the job, but it's in a way, if you're going to make the most of that time for yourself, you want to be present. You don't want to be thinking about what you're going to do after the trip. You want to be on that trip and with those people and with yourself, and make the most of that time, because that's your life. You know, you can't just I mean, you can just look forward to retirement or the end of the trip or the future, but your whole life goes by and you're always looking forward. You're never savoring the moment, making the most of the moment. And anyway, in order to as a little mantra to help people embrace the moment, call themselves into the moment. I actually carved this into some of my wood signs, you know, that of little wisdom signs or whatever that are around the Whitewater Voyages world. And so the phrase goes like, how can I enhance my experience and the experience of the people I'm with right now? And so if you, of course, if you can remember to ask yourself that, you kind of already got it, you know. But it's a phrase that if you can run that through your mind, and I would do that on river trips, you know, if I noticed, oh, there I go, I'm thinking about, you know, the future, and I'd say, how can I enhance my experience and the experience of the people I'm with right now? And you know, it was funny. I often would notice, just by, if I could remember that and say that to myself, something would happen, something would shift. And a little while later, somebody would say something, or I'd say something, and pretty much then we were just all called into the moment. We were all just on a roll. We're just being present and alive, and, you know, kind of electric. with each other. And that phrase seemed to have a a special talisman-like magic to it.
Right on. Yeah, and that's something that is totally unique about rafting, but that in a rapid, you are forced to
Yeah,
be completely present.
yeah.
But as you're drifting along in between rapids, you're not. Your mind can easily wander. And so to nudge yourself with that reminder on an interpersonal level and on just a connection level is super important. There's a religious philosopher who says that the true religious moments come when you're so in the here and now that you don't even recognize that you're in the here and now. And so if you can bring yourself back to that level with the people around you, it's magical. Like you said, electric. It's electric. You get that from guiding rafts and being outdoors in these remarkably dramatic and beautiful places.
Mhm.
Do you get that same here and now vibe when you write?
I want to just compliment you, Ken. You're an amazing guy.
Thanks.
Just this whole Good Change podcast and your book. Your book is absolutely world changing and wonderful. It's just this wonderful, uh, amazing, positive pebble in the pond of the universe, just fanning out, in beautiful ways. And
Thank you.
you yourself in this podcast and so on. I mean, if I had some role in your past to help you in this direction, I am deeply honored, and so uh,
So
anyway.
yes, you did have a big hand in that, and I'm eternally grateful for that. And I, like you, I've just been handed some cool circumstances, and I've tried to make the best of them. And so do you feel that or find that in the moment essence when you write?
I do. Yeah, no. And writing is difficult. It's easy to feel overwhelmed at times. Right at the moment, I'm in a place where I'm actually writing what might be the epilogue of my novel. The final. It's after all the action and kind of there's still some action in this. This is a kind of oddball epilogue, but it has a certain amount of action, resolution stuff. But for the most part, the big climaxes, the big action of the whole story has passed, and now a lot of the things it's just kind of like summarizing things that have been learned, eh, uh, summarizing some solutions, and it's kind of it's a very ambitious book. It deals with the whole role of China and America right now.
Oh, that. There's no ambition there. Yeah, there's no reason to try to address that.
Yeah, no, it's a kind of a piddly little subject.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I want to, I'm thrilled by the fact that it feels like uh, a really well told story at this point to
And
me.
are you, as you're writing that epilogue section, do you find yourself more in the here and now in the flow state as you're writing kind of the
Well,
reflection section or just period when you write?
well, uh, the writing process definitely brings me into the moment. And one nice thing is that now, age almost 74, going to be 74 in a couple of weeks here, I uh, my days of really pushing myself, and certainly my days of being really at my best to take care of other people on whitewater rivers are past me.
Hmm.
And as a if you're going to guide, you really need to be in really top form just to be responsible, to be at your best so that you can do your very best to provide safe experiences for people. And so that's past for me.
Mhm.
But what's not past is hopefully, decades of just sitting around writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, no, the days when I get to write are really exciting days, and it's amazing. There's quite often with each new chapter, with each new scene that I write, I have the feeling of um, of just jumping into the unknown
Mm.
and almost like throwing myself off a cliff. But if I just do it, if I launch forward, and even if I can only come up with one word or a phrase or something, my a little tip that I'll offer, and it's something that helps me enormously, is to realize, one, that there are an infinite number of ways to say anything, to write any story. Infinite number.
Mm.
There's an infinite number of ways to do it wrong too, but
Uh-huh.
but there's an infinite number of ways to do it well. And so I don't have to come up with the one perfect phrasing or sentence or whatever. If you set out that goal, it's pretty much guaranteed writer's block. You can't, it's really hard to write the perfect sentence.
Interesting parallel there between that and tending to others on a river trip is there's no perfect way, but if you're present and focused and want to move forward effectively, then make that your essential goal.
Absolutely. That's so true. And I would try to embed that into our guide schools, that there's no formula, there's no set formula. And if you are operating out of a rigid set formula, you're probably not doing it very well.
Hmm.
It's more a matter of having some guidelines, tuning into yourself, your own unique nature, and listening to your own deep intuition and responding to the people around you, and being, you're an amazing person yourself. Each river guide has a totally unique gift to offer the universe. And so you need to somehow tune into yourself in the context of being with these other people on a river trip, or being sitting at a keyboard writing a book, and tuning into what comes to me to how to say this.
Hmm.
And I am uh, I'm just thrilled and blown away by the fact that over and over and over, day after day, I can often go through a rhythm of being overwhelmed or being, at a loss, but then I inch forward. Oh, and that other guideline, I said, one guideline is there's an infinite number of ways to do it well. And the other guideline is, if you're not writing, then you're trying to take too big a step. If you're not moving forward, you're trying to take too big a step. So just
Right.
make it down into a smaller step. And the smaller step could be just bringing your mind onto the subject,
Hmm.
or thinking of one word or one phrase. And maybe it's not the right phrase, but it's a phrase. It's in the direction you're going, and so you just, and nowadays with Siri and dictation and so on, you can just, one of the phases of real rough drafting for me is just have dictation on, and just talk about what might fit into this next chapter, and then I come back and shape it and so on. And it definitely calls me into the moment. It's definitely running a rapid. And by the end, you get down to the bottom, and quite often I'm upside down. No.
So I want to get to the idea of why thrillers, but you said something in there that I think is fascinating, and I'm wondering if it would make sense for folks to consider this as they're embarking on or continuing to work on something that finds them in the moment, whether it's gardening or writing a book or skateboarding or whitewater rafting. But you said in the pursuit that it's good to shoot for good, but that perfection is not required. So how would you finish this sentence? If perfection is not required, what is required is blank.
Um, taking one small step at a time with the intention of figuring out where you're going.
Mm. I mean, if you think about it, there's so many times in our day, in our week, in our month, in our year where we don't do that, where we're just going through the motion and you're not putting yourself in situations where you're experiencing the moment. And if your advice is heeded and you just take a small step towards where you're going, and that is to try to find something in your life that gives you meaning and joy, that's it, right?
Yeah. You're awesome, Ken.
All right. So let's talk about the thriller thing. I mean, you could have gone into haiku. You could have gone into romance novels. I've read some of the descriptions in your brochures over the years, and everybody knows from who's read those that you could have been a romance author, probably under a different name, but who knows? But why thrillers? What drew you to that?
Well, I really enjoy reading thrillers, and it's funny. I got a master's in English literature, and part of that process is to take what's called a comprehensive oral exam, in which you are theoretically responsible for knowing about everything ever written in English.
That 20-minute multiple choice quiz.
And so for a couple of years, I was working toward, taking that exam, and I would wake up in the middle of the night and say, holy mackerel, I haven't read any Carlyle. I don't know a thing about Carlyle. I actually had that awakening in the middle of one night, and I can't even remember anything about Carlyle right now, but after that I had to read Carlyle, and anyway, it was it was so much forced reading. It was not all bad, but it kind of burned out my appetite for being forced into this sort of thing. And the fact is that thrillers, some people think that thrillers are like horror. That's not what I call a thriller. It's a matter of just something that's really fun to read. You can't put it down. You want to find out what's happening. And the best thrillers include, at least the ones I like the best, are the ones that teach you something along the way. The plot is gripping, and you're kind of on the edge of your seat, and you end up, staying up too late reading and so on. But that's kind of the fun of it. And in the process, if you can learn things like learn about a new city, or maybe little touches of the poetry of modern life, or little bits of wisdom or something, or and the less the writer clobbers you over the head with it, the more it's just kind of embedded in the story, the better. And certainly you don't want to stop the story and have long wisdom downloads, but I try to weave basically a lot of the stuff that I learned, in Whitewater Voyages, teaching the guide schools and those sort of things. I did that the most in my very first thriller, Whitewater, a Thriller, and which is the that's the first book in the whole series. It doesn't have the subtitle an Adam Weldon thriller, because I didn't know it was going to be a series then.
Yeah. And
I've been trying to add that, to change the subtitle, but it turns out there's some bunch of roadblocks to changing a title and stuff. But I haven't given up on it, but I'm not actively working on that little detail right at the moment. But anyway, why thrillers? I guess I just enjoy reading them. I enjoy writing them, and I enjoy putting into them extra levels of awareness, extra little tidbits that hopefully leave my reader with a whole new level of appreciation about life, appreciation of the possibilities of being alive.
And
Yeah.
and which book are you on now? Which number? So Whitewater, a thriller, was the first one. Where are we at now?
Okay. Well, number 2 was Gold Bay, and number 3 it just got released, and that's Cyclops Conspiracy. And that one, number 3, as well as being kind of a travel log of the Greek islands, because I actually sailed as a skipper. I sailed all over the Greek islands, and I kept a journal, and then I wrote a nonfiction narrative of that whole trip called "Sailing the Greek Islands, Dancing with Cyclops,"
Oh,
and
interesting.
that provided the seed of the idea for for number 3, which is called Cyclops Conspiracy, in which Adam and others sail around and try to round up 13 nuclear bombs that are being smuggled into Europe and America with bad intentions. And
And are you going to tell us how it ends? I mean, is it a good ending? We're not.
well, it could be a book about the future in which he doesn't succeed. You know.
Oh. So that's the next book you're working on right now?
Actually, no. I will say this, that I'm of the old school where I believe that you don't, and I shouldn't actually say this, but you really shouldn't. I won't give any absolutes, but I'll just say that there's a contract between between author and reader, and there's certain things, there's certain conventions, like it's really a bad idea to kill off your main person. You know, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I won't say I never do it, but I'm just going to say, that's just wrong.
Yeah. So that could just be good advice in life in general, right? Don't kill off your main person.
I would say that'd be it'd be a good thing to put on your list of, one of your goals.
Yeah. Or this will get you fired. Going back to what we talked about earlier, killing your main person will get you fired.
Will get you fired. Yeah. And, there's a place for that kind of level of, communication, this will get you fired, but anyway, so book 4 is what I'm writing now, and I'm at the very end of the first draft. It could, my first draft is actually more like my third draft, because there's all kinds of little levels between getting the first roughed and then getting it so that I'm ready to move on to the next chapter. But anyway, yeah, I'm at 45 chapters, and it just occurred to me, you know what? The action has, the big climaxes have happened, and I can make this the epilogue instead of dragging it out with a bunch of chapters that are just kind of after the climax. Why not just kind of wrap it all up with an epilogue? And so that's what I'm writing now. And but the trouble is, and that book is called Slay the Dragon, and it has to do the summary is something like China's unrelenting strategy, a relentless strategy of unrestricted warfare with the participation of bought and paid for US elites has brought America to its knees. Can an ex-Navy SEAL, a Chinese computer genius dissident, and a Silicon Valley billionaire and a few others save American democracy and put China on a better path?
Whoa, that sounds fascinating. That sounds absolutely enjoyable to read. It sounds like a page turner. And what's your expected ETA, publish date for that?
Well, I don't put deadlines on myself, but it's I'm writing the epilogue, and I still need to go through it probably several times and so on. So maybe a couple months, something like that.
And right now, the Cyclops Conspiracy can be purchased on Amazon.
It definitely can. Yeah, that's a really good point, Ken. You're
Oh,
really
yeah.
amazing.
Maybe I'll repeat that. Right now, that thriller, the Adam Wilden thriller, can be purchased on Amazon. And can it be purchased in different formats?
It sure can. It can be purchased as an ebook, and now we're talking about Cyclops Conspiracy. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. That is on special right now. I don't know when this is going to air, but I got a special going just to kind of get the word out, spread the word, and spread the book. 99 cents
On an
and
ebook.
as an ebook,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the paperback is available. We have a really great narrator, and that's being produced. And one thing I told the narrator is, don't be in a hurry. Just savor the experience and really get into the characters, the voices, and that sort of thing. And so that's probably going to be ready in July, the audiobook.
Right on.
And I love audiobooks because I can swim, I can drive, I can do things while I also am entertained and so on with the audiobook.
So, trade secret, have you ever been listening to an audiobook in the middle of a Class 5 rapid?
I never have.
Okay, good.
And I wouldn't go behind earphones, on a river trip at all,
Yeah.
but no, that would be the wrong direction to go.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, when you drive to and from a river trip, I've been known to drive like here down to the Kern, and I get to the Kern house and there's a whole bunch of people in there I'm looking forward to being with and talking to and catching up with. And instead I sit in my car for another half an hour listening to my audiobook.
You got to get in the right frame of mind. You can't leave yourself hanging. So you got to get in the right frame of mind.
It's absolutely.
Hey Bill, how do you define success as an author?
Well, very interesting question. I feel success each day that I make progress, that I feel good about. And one, I think, true fact is that you may as well deal with true facts instead of untrue facts.
Yeah, good idea.
I think that you can write the best book in the world, and there's going to be a big slice of humanity that won't like it. And so there's no such thing as something that's universally perceived as perfect. And so you can't write with the idea that you're going to write this perfect book that's going to be universally loved. You have to write the best book you can. And even then, you can't necessarily say, oh, this is the absolute best I can do. You just do the best you can right then. Because if you're saying it's the best I can do, you might work on the book for 20 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the best way to go. It's one choice. It's an option, but I think it's better to just do the best you can in some time frame that makes sense to you, and then get it out there and then work on the next one. And for one thing, most people are not going to just take that one book and make that their whole life and just read that one book over and over and over because it's so perfect.
Yeah.
They're going to, maybe they don't even make it all the way through, but they're going to read they're going to read it. Ideally they read the whole thing and really enjoy it. And hey, they realize, oh, you know what? That little part of that book, I think that could have been done a little better, that part, but that doesn't mean that the book isn't a big success.
Right. Boy, isn't that kind of the reflection of a river trip as well? Matter of fact, isn't that kind of the reflection of life? Just looking back, it could have been a little bit better, but it doesn't mean it wasn't a success.
That is so uplifting and such a positive thing. We as humans evolved, and we are here literally because our brains focus on the negative. Our ancestors who were in that cave. They were probably in there with people who didn't focus on the negative, and they just sat there and they said, hey man, we got a little stack of firewood and we got enough meat for tomorrow. We're set, you know?
Yeah.
And those guys didn't survive, you know, the ones that survived when they said, man, we only got enough meat for tomorrow. We got to go out and get more meat.
Yeah.
And so those were the ones who survived. They're the ones who are our ancestors, you know, the guys who focused on what the possible problem was. And so our brains are literally designed to focus on the positive, on the negative, you know. And so that's not a bad thing. It's just that it's so nice. And of course, it's a privilege, you know, to not be, I mean, we are so frigging lucky. Just this morning, I was having the same recurring thought. I do these stretches, kind of yogic stretches each morning, every morning that I take the time. And I was just thinking, oh, this is so great. I'm so glad I'm treating myself to this. Man, this is just amazing to be alive and to have just the life I have. And but you see, I'm contrasting that to the fact that I spend a fair amount of my life thinking, oh, I got to do such and such. I got to do this. I got to get that done, you know, because my brain is oriented toward getting the things done that are problems.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. You know, this thing of, oh, just, you know, be in the moment and, you know, and literally push all the chop wood, carry water aspects of life out of your awareness. That's not going to work out too well,
Yeah.
you know. But to find the right balance and to treat yourself to, you know, to bubble up through it all, and to, you know, moments of meditation or moments of stretching or moments of just going inside and saying, you know what, this is so great.
Yeah. You know, that's really profound, but this podcast is about elevating, and it's about realizing that good can be as powerful as bad, if not even more so. But what you just described is this hardwiring that is just a part of who we are, but we also have the capacity to work around, through, by, above that, and be grateful for all of the good that's out there. And do you feel like evolutionarily we're at a point now where we can temper some of the stuff that comes from the negative, that comes from the survival impulses that we have, and focus even more on the good?
Well, you yourself can. Your book, your wonderful book, Be the Good, and your podcast here, this conversation, is evidence that we are moving in that direction. If you read the news, one of the things I found is that if I start reading the news early in the morning, it really affects my creativity. It really brings down the quality of my day.
Yeah.
And so you have to, you know, it's important to be informed and that sort of thing, but you gotta control this, you know, the influx. And part of it is that if it bleeds, it leads, you know. And so you know, whatever the perspective of the you know, of the creator of a news item, they're still focused on getting your attention, you know, and holding your attention. And in a way, a thriller does that too, because, you know, you read a story. You don't want to read a story about some guy who's just having a cup of coffee and everything's great, and you know, and that's the first chapter.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like running a river, you know. Why get on just a totally flat river, you know? Get on a fun river, you know.
Yeah.
And that calls you into the moment and that sort of thing. But on the other hand, work your way up gradually, make sure that you're ready, you have the equipment and the experience to handle the river you're tackling, and but make the most of each journey, but try not to bite the big one too early.
Yeah.
Bite the big one later.
Yeah. Yeah. And you and I have both been in situations where we bit the big one later, and we're here to talk about it, which is great.
We're very fortunate.
You got a big event coming up. You mentioned earlier you're going to be 74, and
I am
going to spend some time with those of us. I hope I'm included in that if I can get away to do a river trip. If you had an opportunity to build a life, if you had an opportunity to share advice to people who have built a life, who could build a life like yours, if you had an opportunity to share with people who can build a life like yours, where you get to celebrate being 74 with a bunch of people that you've known for decades and that love you and that you love, what advice would you give? What advice would you give? Let's call this the last question.
Wow. Well, thanks for that question. And for the implicit acknowledgments built into that. Well, I would say, listen to yourself, listen to others too. Take time for yourself. Take time to tune into yourself, to honor yourself, and try to build that into your life on a regular basis. And realize that you don't have to be perfect. It is generally a really good idea to move forward by calling yourself into the moment and respond to impulses within yourself that seem like this is a future that I'd like to create. This is something that has value for me, has meaning for me, and try to move in that direction in ways that are doable and with little small steps. And you don't have to know exactly where you're going, but I think that it's a good idea to follow your own sense of what would be valuable, what would be nurturing for you and for others. And so I wish I had just a simple kind of message. One would be, here's a simple message: read the Guide's Guide Augmented. Oh, even
awesome.
better message. Read Be the Good by Ken Streeter.
Okay, I appreciate that, Bill. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Good Change podcast today, and for all the goodness that you've brought to the world. It's not just a casual statement when I say that you have made the world a much better place, and the people that have had the good fortune to read your books and spend time in your company and share a raft with you are eternally grateful. And just wanted to say thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Ken. I'm just utterly blown away by that acknowledgement, and by just the whole, when I reflect on just all the people that have been a part of Whitewater Voyages, both, the staff and also all the people who've come on our trips, just so many amazing people. And so it's just quite an honor. And, if I have any doubts about it all, just I look at you and I look at so many others who have been a part of Whitewater Voyages and now are doing just such amazing things. Maybe I was, step 1, but you guys are way up at step 10. And so that's, if I had something to do with that to help you up to step 2, that's pretty special. So
you did.
anyway, I'm honored. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thanks for this hour. We're looking forward to reading your next book. You can go to williammcginnis.com to get more information. We'll also have a link in the show notes to the Amazon pages that you can purchase the existing books. Happy birthday, and look forward to more conversations with you, Bill.
Thanks so much, Ken. Me too.
With every show, we ask our guests to share a video of them doing something fun. One of their favorite songs, a few lines from a book they enjoyed, or a scene from a great movie. Something that matches their hopes, dreams, and good work. And then we give this to you. Because laughter and beauty soothes, heals, and changes us. You can find and unwrap this gift on any of our social media sites. Thank you for participating in this podcast. Until next time, keep an eye out for change. Good change. And join our movement at kenstreeter.com.